I was beginning to feel this real emptiness inside. It was as if I had this well on the inside of me, and for a while, my girlfriend had filled that space. She had made me feel whole, and while for a very short period of time she did meet that need, it fell short, and I began to feel this real discontent, this emptiness again.
We learned that no one's a perfect parent, and even though we make mistakes as parents, we can't create homosexuality in our child. Our relationship with him has been like any relationship. You know, we've had misunderstandings and difficult times. Overall, right now, we have a very loving, close relationship.
With the combination of that discontent and what I saw happening with my child and being concerned about her eternal security, I decided to go to church. It was the oddest thing. It was Easter, and my daughter and I had our pretty dresses on, and my girlfriend stayed home to cook Easter dinner. She had no interest in anything religious. And all I can tell you is from the time I walked in the front door of that church, it was different than anything I had ever experienced before. It was as if that well inside of me was beginning to be filled from the inside out. It literally filled up the inside of me and flowed out of my eyes, and I was bawling. I mean, this was before the sermon even started. And I knew even then what I was going to do. I experienced in that moment the love of God in a way that I had never experienced it before. And it overwhelmed and overshadowed anything that I felt for my girlfriend. And while I hadn't physically left her, I hadn't told her yet that I was leaving her, in my heart, I had left her. Standing there that day in that church, in my heart, I had made the decision to come back to God.
God had really dealt with me in my own life about my pride and the embarrassment that I had felt, and my expectations for my family. It was all about me. He was dealing with me on that, and it wasn't until I yielded that part of my life to Him that really it changed me. My life has been impacted because I gave this whole area of my life over to God. Say, whatever you want to do in my life through this, I'm open to that. That's why we are where we are today, because God's changed me. I have a much closer walk with my Heavenly Father today than I would have without this trial.
And so we parted ways, and I did not see her again. And it's been 20 years now, and I've not had any contact with her or really anyone from that past life. I made a clean break. I got involved in that church. I joined the singles group. My daughter became a part of the youth group there, and they became my new family. They discipled me. They taught me all the things that I should have learned during that decade of my life. They helped me to grow in the Lord, and they helped me to stand firm in what God had rescued me from. He had set me free from a bondage that had held me for almost 15 years.
I think the biggest thing that I would want to add, my walk with God has been affected by this. I really sought God during this time once I got through the anger. And He used His Word in 2 Chronicles, in the 20th chapter, where the tribe of Judah was facing a huge army. And God said through the prophet that the battle was His, that they should not be discouraged, and they should not be afraid, but that they should let God win the battle for them. And I took that and said, okay, Lord, the battle's yours. And that my response should be to worship God. And so my worship became greater. because God is faithful and He's sovereign.
A couple of years later, I got married. And so we began praying, and we prayed for a year about what God wanted to do. And through that prayer was birthed Forever Family Ministry. It was a support group for families with a gay loved one. The ministry today is called New Beginning Support. We're located here in Asheville. I have the privilege of walking the journey of healing with men and women like myself who are struggling with same-sex attractions, discipling them, supporting them, encouraging them, and watching God do very similar things in their lives to what He did in mine, in different ways. Everyone's story is different. Everyone's outcome is different. But it's just a beautiful thing to be a part of that in another person's life. God takes what the enemy meant for evil, and He uses it for good, and uses it to build His kingdom. And I get to be part of that, and it is awesome.
Very early in the journey, my son told me one time that it was hard to come home and hear me crying. And I said, most of the time when I'm crying, I'm praying. And he said, I know, Mom, that I'll be straight. And I said, I had never asked God to make you straight. I ask God that you will turn your heart back to Him.
And one of the things we've learned is that the opposite of homosexuality is not heterosexuality, but it's holiness. So our prayer and our deepest hope for our son is that he'll return to a deep abiding walk with his Heavenly Father.